Hello everyone and welcome to Customer Fish's weekly roundup. I am Michael and I'm here basically to simplify the news because you hear so much during the week and a lot of us are quite busy or just can't be bothered to look through all the news that's happening. So here I am, I'm going to sum up as best I can some of the biggest stories of the week. The government are due to announce, literally any moment now in fact, air bridges. Now, what are air bridges, I hear you ask? Well, do not worry. Air bridges are basically paths in between different countries that allow people to travel freely. So during the coronavirus pandemic, many countries in Europe and all around the world decided to close their borders in order to stop the pandemic from spreading. Now, Britain joined in this quite late. We only did this about 2 weeks ago, much to many people's criticism. But we're lifting it now. Yes, only 2 weeks have passed, but we're already lifting the policy. Now, what will this mean? Well, reportedly, there are as many as 75 countries included on the airbridge list. Now, as of even this morning, it keeps changing. We thought originally that it was going to be a few countries at first and then move out, but it seems that it is going to be as many as 75 countries. Now, this includes places like Spain and France and Germany, so if you fancy a paella or a stein, you're in luck. But places like Sweden and Portugal are not expected to be included as their R rate is still quite high. The city of Leicester has been put under lockdown after an increase in COVID-19 cases. It comes at a slightly awkward time for the government as it's just as the government were reducing the restrictions that they've currently put in place. So for example, this weekend, bars and restaurants will be opening. So it's a bit awkward that now a whole city is had to be put under lockdown. There have been many criticisms of the government surrounding what's happened, particularly two major points. One of which is that the Leicester Council said that they only found out the amount of cases they had very, very recently. Until recently, they just didn't have the information about how many cases there were in Leicester. Now, that is a massive criticism, and Keir Starmer went at Boris Johnson and Prime Minister's questions over it, and of course Boris Johnson defended himself, as he always does, bumbling along the way. The other criticism has been from the local residents themselves, who say that the boundaries that have been set aren't really very accurate. Many people have quoted the fact that some children are going to school in places that are outside or inside the boundaries, but they themselves are, again, outside or inside the boundaries, and that none of it really makes a lot of sense. We'll have to see how it goes, and we'll have to see if cases spark up in other places and make this whole relaxing of lockdown seem very, very silly. Hong Kong. Now this is a bit of a meaty story, so try to get your head wrapped around this. I'm going to try and describe the whole situation as well as I can, but this is going to need a bit of history, it's going to need a bit of all sorts, so bear with. But you may have heard right now that in Hong Kong there's a lot of issues to do with the residents of Hong Kong and the Chinese government. Essentially, these residents don't think that they should be part of China and want to be independent, or at the very least disagree with the authoritarian state that is China. Now, the UK have become embroiled in this because not only are we criticising China, but we have decided to hand out residency to any Hong Kong residents born before 1997. Again, why 1997? Now, this is where we've really got to go back in through history. So we've got to go all the way back to 1842. Yes, I know it's a long way away, but that's how long this has all been going on for, basically. In 1842, the Qing dynasty in China, they owned Hong Kong. Now, Britain beat them in the First Opium War and gained control of Hong Kong. Now, from there, we owned Hong Kong for over a century, and it was only in 1997 that Hong Kong was finally returned to China. However, many people in Hong Kong were not a big fan of this. They didn't want to go back to China, they wanted to be independent, they didn't want to be part of Britain, but they didn't want to be a part of China. Ever since then, essentially, and especially due to the fact that China is a communist and authoritarian state, there has been a lot of troubles in Hong Kong that have really come to a head in the past year or 2 years or so. So that all roughly goes through the history of it all, but you might be wondering, okay, so wait, I'm trying to make this out. Why 1997? Well, 1997, again, that was the year that Hong Kong became part of China again and left the British Empire. So de facto, everyone that was born before 97 in the eyes of the British government is a British citizen and therefore has a claim to residency. Now, as a result of this, China have threatened to retaliate. Now, what retaliate means is very, very vague. No one knows. In fact, government ministers have been on the news today saying they don't really know what retaliate means. Does it mean something as drastic as war? Probably not right now, although you never know, but probably not right now. But it could mean something in the form of sanctions or other sorts. Either way, it's not a story that is expected to disappear anytime soon. So that was a lot of information, and that was also a lot of quite dark information. So we are going to leave Earth and leave all this turgid stuff behind and go 75 million light years away. Yes, 75 million light years away to a galaxy far, far away. Yes, we're flying off to the Kinman Dwarf Galaxy, which you may know from the star constellation Aquarius. Now, something rather odd has happened all the way off in the distance. A massive star, and when I say massive, I mean massive. This star was 2.5 billion times brighter than our own sun, which I think is pretty damn bright. Now that has just disappeared. Yes, it's disappeared. Scientists don't fully know why, and this is very, very odd. This isn't normal. Now, stars do die and fall apart, but usually what they do is they blow up in these enormous supernovas. But this one hasn't. It's just disappeared. Astronomers are trying to work out what happened, and at the moment their best hypothesis is that it's collapsed into a black hole. If you're wondering what a black hole is, just very simply, they're these sort of really, really dense holes where even light can't get into them. That's how dense they are, these gravitational pulls that are just extreme. Now this does happen to stars that are collapsing, but usually a supernova happens first and then a black hole forms, and if this happens this way, this could be the first ever time that we have observed this happening, which is exciting. Now, if you're worried about the prospect of planets and stars and moons just disappearing, don't be too worried. 75 million light years is a long, long way away. To put it into context, 75 million light years is 4.903 000 000 miles away. Yes, that took. Got it. And now, in the most depressing news of the week, Liverpool have won the Premier League. Yes, I'm just joking, it's not that depressing. Well, it is for me, I'm a Chelsea fan. But yes, Liverpool have finally won the league title, the Premier League title, after 30 years of waiting. Their fans, their manager, their club were all out on the street celebrating, which some pointed out was maybe a tad naive in the current climate. But you've got to give it to them, they've waited long enough. Celebrate all you want. And they did it in some fashion. Liverpool have dominated the league this year. Even before the break in the season, they were miles ahead. And frankly, City's loss to Chelsea only confirmed what we've all known for the past few months at least. Congratulations, Liverpool. You better hold on for next year though, because people are going to try and come back for you. So that has been your weekly roundup with me, Michael. I hope you have enjoyed, and please read more on cuttlefish news if you want to read all the cool and interesting stories that our journalists have been finding this week. Thank you very much.